Through the windows of the Terran ship New Hope, the stars gleamed like scattered jewels against velvet darkness. Jake Morrison pressed against the cold glass, watching the infinite void stretch before him. He'd witnessed this sight countless times, yet it never failed to remind him how tiny he was in the grand scheme of things. Jake wasn't an ordinary traveler. As Ambassador Jake Morrison, he carried the hopes of humanity on his back. The burden felt crushing. 3 days from now, he'd face alien leaders across a negotiating table. Everything hung in the balance. One wrong move could trigger war across every human settlement in the galaxy. Footsteps rang sharp against metal flooring. Captain Lisa Stone entered the viewing area. As security chief, she ran this mission's protection detail. Tall and powerful, with cropped dark hair and observant eyes, she was the one person Jake relied on completely. "You need rest," Lisa said, her tone steady but commanding. "Tomorrow morning we dock at Kepler 7 station." Jake turned from the window. "My mind won't stop racing. What if these negotiations collapse? The Zaphirians grow angrier each month. Their warships strike our merchant vessels. Their politicians broadcast threats across every channel." Lisa folded her arms across her chest. "That's exactly why we'll ensure success. My crew has inspected every corner of this vessel. We're prepared for any situation." The door slid open. Lieutenant Ben Carter stepped inside, the ship's navigator, young with flame-colored hair and an easy grin. Tonight, though, his expression carried weight. "Sorry to interrupt," Ben said. "The night crew's gathering in the mess hall. We're swapping old tales to pass time. Figured you might join us." Jake glanced at Lisa. She gave a small nod. "A brief break won't hurt. You need to unwind before tomorrow." The mess hall glowed dim and cozy. Around 20 crew members clustered near metal tables, sipping coffee and speaking in hushed tones. The ship's lighting had dimmed for night cycle, bathing everything in warm amber hues. When Jake and Lisa entered, Ben stood up. "Gather close, everyone. I've got a tale that'll raise every hair on your head." The crew shifted nearer. Jake found himself beside Amy Walsh, the chief engineer. Smart and capable in her 30s, with chestnut hair pulled into a practical ponytail, she always bore traces of engine grease beneath her nails. "This tale comes from my grandfather," Ben started. "He piloted cargo vessels for 40 years throughout human territory. He spoke of something he called the Phantom Vessel of Sector 9. A younger crew member chuckled. "Phantom vessels? Really, Ben?" "We're not kids." Ben raised his palm. "Just hear me out. My grandfather never lied. He claimed this phantom vessel appears when humans face their darkest moments. When death seems certain and hope vanishes, this ship materializes from nowhere." Jake leaned in. The story seemed foolish, but Ben's delivery held everyone captive. "The phantom vessel looks human-made but different. Larger than our mightiest battleships, yet it moves with a fighter's grace. Black as the void itself, so dark that sensors barely register it. And the armaments—" Ben paused dramatically. "The armaments can annihilate entire fleets," Amy spoke up. "What kind of armaments?" "Nobody knows," Ben replied. "Energy weapons that slice through armor like tissue. Shields that deflect everything. The ship appears in 10 locations simultaneously, or vanishes entirely." Lisa shook her head. "Sounds like spacer legends to me." "Veteran pilots adore their phantom tales." Ben looked wounded. "My grandfather witnessed it firsthand. During the Battle of New Austin 20 years back, the Zaphirians had cornered a civilian transport with families aboard. 300 souls faced certain death. Then this black vessel appeared and obliterated 12 Zaphirian cruisers in 5 minutes. If this vessel possesses such power, where is it now?" Lisa challenged. "Why doesn't it assist with our current troubles?" "Perhaps it's waiting," Amy said softly. Everyone turned toward her. "Perhaps it only arrives when circumstances become truly desperate." Ben nodded vigorously. "Exactly what my grandfather said. The phantom vessel doesn't appear for minor skirmishes, only when humanity itself teeters on the brink." Jake found unexpected comfort in the story. Even if fictional, the notion that someone watched over humanity felt reassuring. "Has anyone else heard similar tales?" Several crew members nodded. A mechanic named Pete mentioned his uncle had spotted strange vessels during the first contact wars. A communications officer named Sarah recalled old reports from Border Patrol units. Amy looked thoughtful. "My grandfather fought in those first contact wars too. He used to describe a black vessel that rescued his unit from guaranteed death. I always assumed he was just telling stories to help me feel safe. Maybe all our grandfathers saw the same vessel, Ben suggested. Lisa stood. Well, phantom vessel or not, we face real challenges. Everyone should rest. Tomorrow we dock at Kepler 7. The crew began dispersing, but Amy remained behind. She appeared troubled. Something bothering you? Jake asked. Amy pulled out her tablet and began tapping. I want to check something. The ship's computer accesses old military archives. If strange vessels really appeared at battles, there might be official records. Jake watched her work. You believe the stories might be real? I think too many similar accounts exist from different sources, Amy said. My grandfather was practical. He didn't believe in fairy tales, yet he always insisted the black ship was real. Lisa sat back down. Even if these tales have truth, what difference does it make? We can't depend on some mystery vessel to solve our problems. Amy's tablet beeped. Her eyes widened as she studied the screen. Jake, you need to see this. Jake and Lisa examined the tablet. It displayed an old military report from 15 years prior. The document mentioned an unidentified human craft that materialized during a pirate attack. The vessel had destroyed the entire pirate fleet, then disappeared. More reports like this exist, Amy said, scrolling through files. Different battles, different years, but always identical descriptions. A massive black ship with unknown technology. Lisa frowned. These could be classified military vessels. Secret government projects, perhaps? But look at this, Amy said, pulling up another report. This battle occurred simultaneously with another one, 300 light-years apart. The same vessel was reported at both locations. Jake felt ice crawl down his spine. That's impossible. No ship travels that fast, Amy closed her tablet. Unless it's not just one ship. The three sat in silence, contemplating the implications. Finally, Lisa stood again. Whatever the truth, we have responsibilities. Jake, you need to concentrate on the peace negotiations. Amy, keep this research confidential for now. We don't need rumors circulating through the crew. Jake nodded, but his mind raced. Walking back to his quarters, he couldn't stop thinking about the stories. Were they real? Did a fleet of mystery vessels really protect humanity? He gazed out his window at the stars one final time before sleep. Somewhere out there, the Zaphirian Empire assembled its forces. Tomorrow he'd attempt to make peace with them. But if he failed, would the phantom vessels arrive to save them all? The stars guarded their secrets, twinkling silently in the endless dark. Kepler 7 station resembled a giant metal flower floating in the void. Its 5 arms extended from a central hub, each large enough to contain a small city. Lights sparkled across its surface like captured stars. Jake Morrison watched it grow larger through the window as New Hope approached. Beautiful station, he commented to Captain Lisa Stone, who stood beside him on the bridge. Lisa's face showed deep concern. Too beautiful. My security scans reveal weapon ports concealed throughout those arms. This place is fortified like a military base. Lieutenant Ben Carter glanced up from his navigation console. The Zaphirians arrived 6 hours ago. Their delegation vessel is docked on the opposite side. Jake felt his stomach tighten. The peace negotiations would begin in 2 hours. Everything depended on the next few days. Any word from our escort vessels? The Independence and the Freedom are maintaining position outside the station, Lisa said, along with 10 smaller craft. But Jake, I need to tell you something. My communications officer can't reach Colonial Fleet Command. All our long-range transmissions are being blocked. What do you mean blocked? Someone is jamming our signals. We can communicate with nearby ships, but nothing reaches Earth or the other colonies. Ben turned around in his seat. That's concerning. If something goes wrong here, nobody will know. Jake tried to stay calm, but fear grew in his chest like a cold weight. Maybe it's just solar interference. Space weather can block signals sometimes. Lisa shook her head. I've done this work for 15 years. This is deliberate jamming. Someone doesn't want us calling for help. The docking process took another hour. Jake spent the time reviewing his notes for the peace negotiations. He had to remember dozens of trade agreements, border disputes, and past battles between humans and Zaphirians. The weight of 2 civilizations pressed down on his shoulders. Amy Walsh came to the bridge as they finished docking. Her face appeared pale and her hands trembled slightly. Lisa, you need to see what I discovered. Lisa followed Amy to a computer terminal. Amy pulled up sensor readings from the past few hours. I've been monitoring the station systems while we approached. Look at these power readings. The screen displayed energy patterns from different parts of Kepler 7. Most areas showed normal station operations, but several sections glowed bright red. Those are weapons, Lisa said grimly. Heavy plasma cannons and missile launchers. This entire station is a trap. Jake felt like someone had struck him in the gut. Are you certain? Amy nodded. The energy signatures don't match normal station systems. Someone has converted this diplomatic meeting place into a military installation. Ben was listening from his console. Should we leave? We could withdraw and report this to Fleet Command. We can't reach Fleet Command, Lisa reminded him. And if we run now, the Zaphirians will know we discovered their plan. They might attack our colonies immediately. Jake made the hardest decision of his life. We proceed with the negotiations, but everyone stays alert for trouble. 2 hours later, Jake walked through the corridors of Kepler 7 station. The walls gleamed white metal with blue lights running along the edges. Everything appeared clean and peaceful, but Jake now knew weapons hid behind those walls. Lisa walked beside him with 2 security guards. She had insisted on bringing weapons, even though the peace treaty specified no arms were allowed in the meeting rooms. The main conference room was enormous, with a round table in the center and windows showing the stars outside. 3 Zaphirian delegates were already waiting. Zaphirians resembled tall lizards walking upright. Their skin was deep green and their eyes were yellow with black slits. The leader was called War Speaker Thexlon. He was larger than the others, with scars covering his face and arms. When he spoke, his voice sounded like grinding stones. Ambassador Morrison, he said, welcome to Kepler 7. We are pleased that humans have come to discuss peace. Jake tried to smile, but his face felt rigid. Thank you, War Speaker. The Colonial Federation hopes we can end the conflicts between our peoples. The negotiations began with minor matters: trade routes, mining rights, communications protocols. Thexlon seemed reasonable, even friendly. But Jake noticed the Zaphirian kept checking a small device on his wrist. After 3 hours, they took a break. Jake met with Lisa in a side room. Something's wrong, she said immediately. My security sweeps found hidden cameras and listening devices throughout this station. Plus, I can't contact our escort ships anymore. What do you mean? Local communications are being jammed too. I can't reach the Independence or any of our vessels. Jake felt panic rising in his throat. We're completely cut off. Before Lisa could respond, Ben Carter's voice came through her communication device. Lisa, you need to get to the observation deck immediately. Something bad is happening. They ran through the station corridors, their footsteps echoing off the metal walls. The observation deck was a large room with windows facing out into space. Ben was standing at the main window, his face white with shock. Look, he whispered, pointing outside. Jake looked and felt his heart stop. Ships were materializing from hyperspace all around the station. Dozens of ships, then hundreds. All of them were Zaphirian warships, their dark hulls bristling with weapons. How many? Lisa asked. Ben checked his portable scanner. 800 ships so far. Battleships, cruisers, destroyers. This is the largest fleet I've ever seen. Amy Walsh came running into the room. The station's weapons are powering up. They're targeting our escort ships. Through the window, Jake could see flashes of light as the battle began. The 12 human ships were completely surrounded. Explosions bloomed like deadly flowers as missiles found their targets. The Independence is gone, Ben said quietly. The Freedom is taking heavy damage. A new voice filled the room. It came from speakers hidden in the walls, speaking in perfect human English with a Zaphirian accent. Attention, human delegation. This is Admiral Sexthor of the Zaphirian Imperial Fleet. You are now prisoners of the Empire. On the room's main screen, a Zaphirian appeared. He was even larger than Thexlon, with golden scales and cold yellow eyes. Medals and battle ribbons covered his dark uniform. Ambassador Morrison, Admiral Sexthor continued. Your escort fleet is destroyed. Your communications are blocked. No help is coming. The peace negotiations were a deception to bring your leaders here. Jake found his voice. What do you want? Complete surrender of all human colonies. You will order your colonial fleet to stand down immediately. If you refuse, we will destroy every human world, starting with Earth. Lisa stepped forward. You're bluffing. Even with 800 ships, you can't conquer all of human space. Admiral Sexthor laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Foolish human. This is only the first fleet. We have built 5 more just like it. Your people will surrender or die. Amy Walsh was still working on her scanner. Suddenly, she looked up with desperate hope in her eyes. Jake, remember what we discussed last night? The phantom ship stories. Amy, this isn't the time for fairy tales, Lisa snapped. But Amy was already pulling out her communications device. My grandfather told me something else. He said there was an emergency code, a signal that would summon the phantom ship if humanity faced real danger. Jake stared at her. You can't be serious. We're all going to die anyway, Amy said. 800 enemy ships against none. What do we have to lose? She began typing a complex sequence of numbers and letters into her device. This is the code my grandfather made me memorize. He said to use it only if our entire species was threatened. Lisa grabbed Amy's arm. Stop. You're wasting time on old stories when we need to find a real solution. Amy pulled away and pressed the send button. There. If the stories are true, help is coming. If not, we die just the same. Admiral Sexthor's voice came through the speakers again. You have 1 hour to surrender, Ambassador Morrison. After that, we begin destroying human colonies. Jake looked out at the massive Zaphirian fleet surrounding them. 800 warships against 0. Even if Amy's phantom ship was real, what could one ship do against such overwhelming force? He closed his eyes and tried to think of a way to save his people. But deep in space, far from any star, something ancient was receiving Amy's signal and beginning to move. Time crawled on Kepler 7 station. Jake Morrison sat in the conference room with his hands folded, trying to appear calm. But inside, his heart pounded against his ribs like a caged animal. 30 minutes had passed since Amy Walsh sent her desperate signal. Nothing had happened. Captain Lisa Stone paced back and forth like a restless predator. Her security team had found no escape route. Every exit was blocked by Zaphirian guards. Every communication channel was jammed. They were trapped with nowhere to run. Still nothing on the sensors? Lieutenant Ben Carter said from his portable scanner. If Amy's phantom ship is coming, it's taking its time. Amy sat by herself near the window, staring out at the enemy fleet. Her face was pale but determined. My grandfather said it sometimes takes hours. The phantom ship has to travel from very far away. Lisa stopped pacing and looked at Amy with frustration. We don't have hours. Admiral Sexthor will start killing civilians soon. Look, she pointed out the window. 3 human cargo ships floated helplessly in space, surrounded by Zaphirian warships. The cargo ships carried families moving between colonies, men, women, and children who had nothing to do with politics or war. Admiral Sexthor's voice filled the room again through the hidden speakers. Ambassador Morrison, I grow tired of waiting. To show I am serious, I will now demonstrate what happens to those who resist the Empire. On the main screen, they watched in horror as Zaphirian ships opened fire on one of the cargo ships. The small vessel disappeared in a ball of flame and debris. 200 innocent people died in seconds. Jake felt sick to his stomach. Stop, I'll sign whatever you want. No, Admiral Sexthor said coldly. That ship died because you made me wait. In 10 minutes, another ship dies. Then another every 10 minutes until you surrender completely. Lisa slammed her fist on the table. He's a monster. Even for a Zaphirian, this is evil. Jake stood up and walked to the communication panel. He couldn't let more innocent people die for his pride. This is Ambassador Morrison. I formally surrender on behalf of the Colonial Federation. Just don't hurt any more civilians. Jake, no! Lisa shouted. But before Jake could finish his surrender, Ben Carter looked up from his scanner with wide eyes. Wait, I'm reading something. A ship just dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. Everyone rushed to the windows. Far away, almost too small to see, a single point of light appeared among the stars. Admiral Sexthor's voice carried amusement. 1 human ship against my entire fleet. Are your people insane? Amy pressed her face against the window. Is it the phantom ship? Ben worked frantically with his scanner. I can't get a clear reading at this distance, but it's definitely human design. And the energy signature is... He paused, checking his readings again. This is impossible. That ship is generating more power than our biggest space stations. On the main screen, Admiral Sexthor appeared again. His yellow eyes showed curiosity instead of anger. "Unknown human vessel. Identify yourself immediately." The response came in a calm male voice that seemed to fill the room with quiet strength. "This is Commander Ryan Brooks, Terran Deep Space Command. You have threatened innocent civilians. Withdraw your forces immediately." Admiral Sexthor laughed, a sound like breaking bones. "Commander Brooks, you are either very brave or very stupid. I have 800 warships. You have one. Surrender now and I will give you a quick death." "Negative," Commander Brooks replied. "You have 10 seconds to begin withdrawing. After that, I will consider your fleet a hostile force and act accordingly." Jake couldn't believe what he was hearing. One ship against 800 wasn't brave. It was suicide. Admiral Sexthor's laughter grew louder. 10 seconds. "Very well, Commander. Let me show you what happens to heroes." The Admiral gave orders in the Zaphirian language. Immediately, 50 of his warships turned toward the lone human vessel and opened fire. Space lit up with missile trails and energy beams. Amy grabbed Jake's arm. "Look at the scanner readings." Ben's scanner was going crazy. The energy patterns it showed made no sense. The missiles and energy beams are hitting something, but not the ship itself. It's like there's an invisible wall around it. Through the station's telescopes, they could see the mystery ship more clearly now. It was indeed black as space itself, with smooth curves instead of the angular design of normal human ships. It moved through the missile barrage like a dancer, untouched by the deadly weapons. "Impossible," Admiral Sexthor whispered. Commander Brooks's voice came again, still perfectly calm. "Your 10 seconds are up." What happened next changed everything Jake thought he knew about space combat. The black ship suddenly accelerated to impossible speeds. In seconds, it reached the first group of Zaphirian vessels. Its weapons were like nothing in any military manual. Beams of pure white light shot out from the ship, slicing through enemy hulls like a hot knife through butter. But these were not random shots. Each beam hit specific targets on each ship: weapons, engines, life support systems. The Zaphirian vessels were not destroyed. They were surgically disabled. "He's not trying to kill them," Amy whispered in amazement. "He's taking apart their ships piece by piece." 5 Zaphirian warships went dark in less than 30 seconds. Their crews were alive, but their ships were helpless scrap metal floating in space. Admiral Sexthor screamed orders at his fleet. "All ships attack! Kill that thing now!" 200 Zaphirian vessels converged on the black ship from all directions. The space around it filled with so many weapons that it looked like a deadly fireworks show. But Commander Brooks's ship seemed to be in 10 places at once. It would appear between 2 enemy ships, disable both, then vanish and reappear somewhere else. Its defensive systems created barriers of energy that stopped entire missile salvos. When enemy ships tried to ram it, the black ship simply phased through them like a ghost. "How is this possible?" Lisa breathed. Ben's scanner was showing readings that hurt his brain to look at. "The power output is beyond our technology, and the way it moves, it's like it's bending space itself." Jake watched in awe as more and more Zaphirian ships went dark. Commander Brooks was fighting an entire fleet by himself and winning, but it wasn't a slaughter. It was more like a teacher giving a lesson to difficult students. Admiral Sexthor was no longer laughing. His voice shook with fear and rage. "What are you? What kind of ship is this?" Commander Brooks answered while his weapons continued their deadly dance. "The kind that watches over humanity when others threaten extinction. This is your final warning, Admiral. Order your remaining ships to withdraw, or I will start destroying instead of disabling." As if to prove his point, one of his energy beams changed color from white to red. It struck a Zaphirian cruiser, and the entire ship exploded into atoms. The Admiral's face went pale green. In 5 minutes, he had lost over 100 ships. His unstoppable fleet was being torn apart by a single enemy vessel that seemed to obey no known laws of physics. "Fall back," Admiral Sexthor finally screamed. "All ships fall back to safe distance." The surviving Zaphirian vessels retreated to the far edge of the system, leaving behind clouds of debris and disabled ships. The black ship hung motionless in space like a dark angel, its weapons still glowing with deadly power. Jake realized he had been holding his breath. Around him, his companions stared out at the impossible scene. Amy Walsh had tears running down her cheeks. "The stories were true," she whispered. "They were all true." Commander Brooks's voice filled the station one more time. "Admiral Sexthor, you and your fleet will leave this system immediately. If any Zaphirian ship attacks human civilians again, there will be consequences. Do you understand?" Admiral Kexthor's response was barely a whisper. We understand." Jake looked out at the mysterious black ship that had just saved them all. Who was Commander Brooks? Where did his incredible technology come from? And how many other ships like his were hidden in the darkness between stars? The legend had become reality, and nothing would ever be the same. Admiral Kexthor wasn't done fighting. Jake Morrison could see the rage burning in the alien's yellow eyes on the main screen. The Zaphirian commander had built his reputation on crushing his enemies. He wouldn't let one mysterious human ship destroy his pride. "This is impossible," Admiral Sexthor hissed to his officers. "No single ship can have such power. It must be using some kind of trick or illusion." Captain Lisa Stone watched the enemy fleet regrouping at the edge of the system. "He's not retreating. He's planning something." Lieutenant Ben Carter checked his scanner readings. "The Zaphirian ships are forming a new attack pattern. They're spreading out in a sphere around Commander Brooks's ship." Amy Walsh pressed her face against the window. "They're going to attack from every direction at once. Even the Phantom ship can't fight in all directions." Admiral Kexthor's voice boomed through the station speakers. "Commander Brooks, you have impressed me with your tricks, but now you face the full might of the Zaphirian Empire. Prepare to die." The Admiral gave orders in his own language. Immediately, all 600 remaining ships began moving toward the black ship. They came from above, below, and all sides. Space filled with the blue glow of their engines. Jake felt his stomach drop. "There are too many of them. Even with his advanced weapons, he can't fight them all," Commander Brooks's calm voice answered. "Admiral, I gave you a chance to withdraw. You chose to continue threatening innocent lives. Very well. What happened next made everyone on the station question everything they knew about physics and warfare. The black ship suddenly began to change. Its hull seemed to flow like liquid metal, growing longer and sprouting new sections. Weapon ports opened along its sides like blooming flowers. The single ship became something that looked more like a space station than a vessel. "It's transforming," Amy whispered in amazement. Ben's scanner was screaming with alerts. "The energy readings are off the charts. That ship is now generating more power than our entire home fleet combined." The transformed ship fired its weapons, and space exploded with light. But these were not normal energy beams. Streams of white fire reached out in all directions, bending and curving through space like living things. Each beam found a different target, striking with perfect accuracy. Zaphirian ships began exploding or going dark faster than Jake could count. The enemy vessels fired back with everything they had, but their weapons couldn't even reach Commander Brooks's ship. Some kind of energy field surrounded it, making missiles and energy beams vanish before they could hit. "Look at that," Lisa said, pointing at the scanner display. "He's not just blocking their attacks. He's absorbing the energy and using it to power his own weapons." Admiral Sexthor was screaming orders, but his fleet was falling apart. Ships tried to ram the black vessel only to bounce off its shields like toys. Others attempted to surround it, but the ship moved in ways that hurt to watch. It seemed to fold space around itself, appearing in multiple places at the same time. Jake saw something that made his blood freeze. One group of Zaphirian ships was breaking away from the main battle. They were heading straight for Kepler 7 station. "He's trying to use us as hostages," Jake realized. But Commander Brooks had seen it too. A section of his transformed ship detached itself and flew to intercept the attacking vessels. This smaller craft moved even faster than the main ship, reaching the enemy group in seconds. The Zaphirian ships fired everything they had at the interceptor. The small craft simply flew through the barrage without slowing down. When it reached the first enemy ship, something incredible happened. The interceptor seemed to phase through the Zaphirian vessel's hull like it was made of air. "Did you see that?" Ben asked, his voice shaking. It went inside the enemy ship. Lights flickered inside the Zaphirian vessel. Then it went completely dark, floating helplessly in space. The interceptor emerged from the other side and repeated the process with the next ship. Amy checked her readings. "It's not destroying them from the outside. It's going inside and shutting down their systems directly. How is that possible?" Meanwhile, the main battle continued. Commander Brooks's ship was fighting 400 enemy vessels at once and winning. His weapons seemed to have unlimited range and perfect accuracy. Enemy ships exploded or went dark with each shot. But Jake noticed something else. The black ship was being careful about which vessels it destroyed completely. Most of the enemy ships were just disabled, their crews alive but helpless. Only the ships that tried to attack civilians or the station were completely destroyed. "He's showing mercy," Jake said in amazement. "Even in the middle of this battle, he's trying to minimize casualties." Admiral Sexthor seemed to realize this too. His voice came over the speakers again, but now it was filled with desperation instead of anger. "You want to protect the innocent? Then save them from this." Jake looked out the window and saw something that made his heart stop. Admiral Sexthor's flagship was accelerating directly toward Kepler 7 station. The massive warship's engines burned white-hot as it built up speed. "He's going to ram the station," Lisa said in horror. "At that speed, the impact will kill everyone aboard." The flagship was too close and moving too fast for normal interception. But Commander Brooks wasn't normal. His ship suddenly collapsed back into its original form and shot toward the incoming enemy vessel, faster than anything Jake had ever seen. The two ships met halfway between the fleet and the station, but instead of colliding, something impossible happened. Commander Brooks's ship seemed to become transparent. It passed right through the enemy flagship like a ghost passing through a wall. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the Zaphirian flagship began to come apart from the inside. Explosions rippled along its hull as critical systems failed. The massive ship broke into pieces before it could reach the station. Jake stared in shock. He flew through a solid ship. How is that possible? Amy was studying her scanner readings with wide eyes. According to these instruments, his ship briefly existed in a different dimension. It occupied the same space as the enemy vessel, but on a different level of reality. Ben shook his head. "That's not technology. That's magic." The battle was over. Of the original 800 Zaphirian ships, fewer than 50 remained. The rest were either destroyed or floating helplessly in space. The survivors clustered together at the edge of the system, afraid to move. Admiral Sexthor's voice came one last time, but now it was weak and broken. What are you?" Commander Brooks's ship hung motionless in space, its weapons still glowing with deadly power. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of ages. "I am what happens when humanity's children are threatened. I am the sword that guards the innocent and the shield that protects the helpless. You came here to destroy us. Instead, you have learned that humanity is not as defenseless as you believed." Jake looked around at his companions. Amy was crying with relief. Lisa stood at attention like a soldier seeing her commander. Ben stared out at the black ship with pure wonder. The impossible had happened. One ship had destroyed an entire armada. The phantom ship of legend was real, and it had saved them all. But Jake knew this wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something much larger. If one such ship existed, how many others were hidden in the darkness? And what did this mean for humanity's future among the stars? Outside, Commander Brooks's ship waited silently, a dark guardian watching over them all. The silence after the battle felt heavy as a blanket. Jake Morrison looked out at the debris field that stretched across space like a graveyard of metal and dreams. Pieces of Zaphirian ships drifted slowly in the starlight. The few surviving enemy vessels hung at the edge of the system, afraid to move. Commander Brooks's black ship floated near Kepler 7 station like a dark guardian angel. Its weapons had powered down, but everyone could feel the sleeping danger inside that mysterious hull. Captain Lisa Stone was the first to speak. "I've never seen anything like that in 20 years of military service. One ship against 800. It shouldn't be possible." Lieutenant Ben Carter checked his scanner one more time. 43 Zaphirian ships left alive out of 800. The rest are either destroyed or dead in space. This wasn't a battle. It was a lesson. Amy Walsh wiped tears from her eyes. "My grandfather was right. The phantom ship was real all along." Jake felt overwhelmed by everything he had witnessed. The peace negotiations seemed like ancient history now. Everything had changed in the space of an hour. What happens now? What do we do with a ship that can destroy entire fleets? His answer came from Commander Brooks himself. The calm voice filled the station speakers. "Ambassador Morrison, request permission to come aboard. We need to talk." Jake looked at Lisa, who nodded slowly. "Permission granted, Commander. Docking Bay 7 is open." They waited in the docking bay as the black ship moved closer to the station. Up close, it was even more impressive and frightening. The hull seemed to absorb light, making it look like a hole cut out of space itself. No windows were visible, no obvious weapons either, but they all knew the terrible power hidden inside. A small section of the ship's hull simply opened like a door, though no seams had been visible before. A single figure stepped out and walked across the docking bay toward them. Commander Ryan Brooks looked like a normal human man in his 40s. He had gray hair and tired eyes that seemed much older than his face. He wore a uniform similar to Colonial Fleet issue, but with small differences that suggested an older design. His boots made no sound on the metal floor. "Ambassador Morrison," Commander Brooks said, extending his hand. "Thank you for allowing me aboard." Jake shook the offered hand. It felt warm and human, which somehow surprised him. "Commander, I have so many questions I don't know where to start." Brooks smiled, and for a moment he looked like any middle-aged officer. "I imagine you do. But first, are you and your people unharmed?" "We're fine, thanks to you," Lisa said. "Commander, I have to ask, what kind of ship is that?" "The technology you demonstrated is decades ahead of anything in human space." Brooks looked out at his vessel through the docking bay window. "It's complicated. Walk with me. I'll explain what I can." They moved to a nearby conference room. Brooks sat down heavily like a man carrying a great weight. "What I'm about to tell you must remain classified at the highest levels. Humanity's survival may depend on keeping these secrets." Jake leaned forward. "We understand. My ship is called the Guardian. There are others like it, hidden in deep space, far from any star. We are part of a project that began over 60 years ago during the first human expeditions beyond the solar system." Amy asked the question they were all thinking. "What kind of project?" Brooks was quiet for a long moment. Earth's governments knew that humanity would eventually encounter hostile alien species. They also knew that our technology was primitive compared to what we might face. So they started a program to develop defenses that could protect the human race from extinction. "What kind of defenses?" Ben asked. "Ships like mine." "Weapons and technology that push the boundaries of physics itself. We took research paths that mainstream science considered too dangerous or impossible. Exotic matter manipulation, dimensional phase technology, energy systems that tap into quantum fluctuations." Lisa frowned. "If this technology exists, why keep it secret? Why not share it with the Colonial Fleet?" Brooks stood up and walked to the window. "Because power like this is too dangerous for normal use. These ships could conquer the galaxy if they fell into the wrong hands. They could destroy entire worlds by accident if used carelessly. We only emerge when humanity faces true extinction." Jake tried to understand. "So you're like guardians, hidden protectors watching over human space." "Exactly. There are 12 ships like the Guardian scattered across known space and beyond. We watch, we wait. We intervene only when our species is about to be wiped out completely." Amy looked amazed. "How many times have you saved us without anyone knowing?" "More than you might think. The Centauri massacre 20 years ago, that wasn't pirates. It was a Zaphirian test attack that we stopped. The mysterious disappearance of the Arcturus raiding fleet, we disabled them before they could attack the mining colonies. Every time humanity has faced extinction, we've been there." Ben shook his head in wonder. "All those phantom ship stories were true." "Most of them," Brooks admitted. "Though the details get mixed up in the telling. Spacers love to embellish their tales." Jake had another question. "Why reveal yourself now? Why not just destroy the Zaphirian fleet and disappear like before?" Brooks turned back to face them. "Because this situation is different. Admiral Kexthor's fleet was just the beginning. Our deep space sensors detect 4 more Zaphirian armadas being built in secret shipyards. They're planning to exterminate every human world." The room fell silent. Jake felt ice forming in his stomach. 5 armadas, 800 ships each, 4,000 warships total. Even with our advanced technology, 12 Guardian ships couldn't stop an assault of that magnitude on our own. Lisa stood up. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying it's time for humanity to know the truth. The age of hiding is over. My people need to work with the Colonial Fleet to prepare for what's coming." Jake realized the full meaning of Brooks's words. "You're willing to share your technology, some of it, enough to give human ships a fighting chance. But there are conditions. This technology cannot be used for conquest or aggression. It exists only to protect human lives." Amy looked excited. "Think of what we could learn. The scientific advances alone could change everything." Brooks smiled sadly. Knowledge always comes with a price, Engineer Walsh. Are you prepared for humanity to become the most powerful military force in the galaxy? Are you ready for other species to fear us the way they now fear the Zaphirians? The question hung in the air like smoke. Jake thought about the implications. Humanity had always been the underdog in galactic politics. What would happen when they became the apex predator? The Zaphirian survivors will report what they saw here, Brooks continued. Word will spread that humanity has powerful protectors. Some species will want to be our allies. Others will see us as a threat to be eliminated before we grow too strong. Jake made his decision. When the time comes, we'll deal with those challenges. Right now, we need to focus on survival. Commander, what do you need from us? Help me convince the Colonial Council to authorize cooperation between Guardian Command and the regular fleet. We have 6 months before the Zaphirian armadas are ready to attack. 6 months to prepare humanity for the greatest war in galactic history. Brooks stood up and moved toward the door. I'll be in contact with your government soon. But for now, I need to return to my duties. There are other threats in deep space that require attention. Jake walked with him back to the docking bay. Will we see you again? Count on it, Ambassador. The Guardians have watched over humanity from the shadows for 60 years. Now we step into the light. The galaxy will never be the same. Brooks climbed back into his ship through the seamless hull opening. The Guardian detached from the station and moved away into space. As Jake watched, the black ship seemed to fold in on itself and vanish, leaving only empty space and distant stars. Amy Walsh joined him at the window. The peace negotiations are over, aren't they? Jake nodded. The old galaxy is ending. A new one is beginning, and humanity isn't going to be the weakest species anymore. Far out in space, the surviving Zaphirian ships began their long journey home, carrying news that would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. The humans had guardians. The humans had weapons beyond imagination. The humans were no longer prey. In the depths of space, 11 other Guardian ships received Commander Brooks's report and began moving toward human space. The age of hiding was over. The age of protection had begun. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, other ancient eyes watched and wondered what this change would mean for the galaxy's future.